back on the flooded Shannon region, as farmers in this particular region have been particularly badly hit. Unfortunately, farmers and agricultural contractors all over Ireland have been extremely worried about their livelihoods as a result of the persistent bad weather. Silage is not cut, cattle cannot graze, production costs have increased, milk production has dramatically dropped, crops have been affected. In addition, beef prices have been pulled during the week by the factories. June was our wettest month on record and will cost the farming community some €160 million. The weather is extremely bad and, quite frankly, crippling farmers' ability to make a decent living. And it took farmers nearly 3 years to trade out of the disastrous year of 2009. The response from the government has been startlingly and shamefully inadequate. The only response from the Minister last week was to bring forward the single farm payment to October. Every deputy in this House knows that since the inception of the single farm payment, it has been paid in October, so it is nothing new to ask for it. The economy depends hugely on our farming and our agriculture community, and ministers quite rightly boast about the success of it and its export-led growth. The government needs to start taking this very seriously. They need to take a more proactive role and create more practical supports for farmers who are troubling. The Minister must meet with suppliers and merchants and demand more flexibility given the challenges of the disastrous weather. Also, the farming by calendar year needs to be urgently reviewed. The Taoiseach has the government for supplementary funding to in some way alleviate the plight of farmers in this country, or has the government even requested that the single farm payment be brought forward earlier than October?
Thank you. Taoiseach.
Well, first of all, can I agree with the Deputy in two matters? First of all, the huge importance of agriculture to the Irish economy. And I think it has to be said that in recent times we have seen a very strong performance by agriculture and by the food sector in particular, which has enormous potential for the creation of jobs. A lot of the very strong export performance by Ireland in recent times is due to the performance of our agriculture and food sector. And I think it is something that we take a considerable satisfaction on in this country, that as a country we are now producing enough food to feed 10 times our population, with the obvious implications of that for our export performance. I agree with the Deputy also that the recent spell of very bad weather is creating a huge problem for farmers in terms of flooding of land, in terms of the difficulty in harvesting and in the managing of their farms. This is something that the Minister for Agriculture and Food in particular is particularly concerned about. It is the reason why he decided to bring forward by 6 weeks the payments from of single farm payments. That is brought forward to October. It is also why the government is giving particular attention to in the context of the discussions that are taking place at the moment on the multi-annual financial framework for the European budget, the importance of the common agriculture policy and the payments that are associated with that. The difficulties that farmers are experiencing as a result of the weather is something that is very much exercising the work of the Minister for Agriculture, and it is something that the government understands very fully.
Deputy Moynihan.
Thank you. Taoiseach, quite frankly, the smokescreen or the cover in relation to bringing forward the single farm payment to October is not working. It may sound well that there is an activation or something in it, but it does not cut any member of the farming community, because they know full well, and they have commitments already in October, because they look forward to October. It's seen as a given every year that October is the first tranche of the single farm payment. We cannot continue to have this sector hampered the way it is, and it is all All farmers want to do is to earn a decent living, and the farmers need to take a more proactive role. The first thing I want to do is, to cease this notion about the October deadline that is taken as a given. The government needs to, and the Minister needs to, have discussions with the Department of Agriculture immediately to cease all inspections during the next couple of months, because farmers are at the end of their tether in relation to managing it. Excuse me, Minister. All but emergency inspections have to cease. The last thing.
Sorry, would you mind allowing the Deputy a supplementary question? A supplementary question, please. Thank you. Would you please proceed? Thanks.
The last thing that farmers need at this point in time is undue inspections. They're at the end of their tether to harvest their crops.
Would you ask the question? It's a supplementary question.
I'm asking the Minister or the Taoiseach to ensure that they cease all inspections during these very difficult months. I also want to ask the Government and the Minister to deal with merchants and ask for flexibility, and also to have discussions with immediate effect with the banks to ask them for leniency in relation to the agricultural community and the agricultural contractors who have seen the worst year on record. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I don't think there's a farmer in the country who'd blame the government for the bad weather. But there's a bit of a tone of that.
Look, I hear the familiar tones once again. Would you please hold your wish, as they say? Thanks very much. Would you please proceed?
There's a tone of that from the opposition this morning. The position is that there is very bad weather, and has been very bad weather at the moment. It is having an impact on farming. We all understand that. The Minister for Agriculture is in close contact with the farming community, with the farming organisations about the best way of dealing with that. But the suggestion that has been made by Fianna Fáil now, that there would be a complete cessation of inspections, is simply not possible. There is a legal requirement to have a minimum amount of inspections so that payments will be made. And if you suspend inspections, it means that the payments can't be made at all. What the Minister for Agriculture has done is he has made arrangements to bring forward the single farm payment. The route that is being suggested now by Fianna Fáil is a route which would end up with huge complications arising, and in all probability the cessation of payments, and that is something that the government will not countenance. The Minister for Agriculture will continue to keep in close contact with the farming organisations, with the farming community about the impact of the bad weather on farming at present. And I think if we take this in its totality, I think it is fair to say that in the lifetime of this government that we have seen an enormous improvement both in agricultural output and in the performance of farming, and a very close cooperation between the government and the Minister for Agriculture and the farming organisations.
Deputy Jonathan O'Brien, please. Thank you.
Taoiseach, last night we heard 10 minutes of legal bluster from a bumbling Minister for Health in which he failed to answer some fundamental questions. The appearance of the Minister's name in Stubbs Gazette is as a result of him breaching an order of the High Court. Yet the Minister has given no indication to when he will comply with that High Court order. The Minister also directly contradicted his own register of interests as a TD. In his SIPO declaration, he stated that he transferred his nursing home interest to a blind trust. Yet we now know from the Minister's own mouth last night that that declaration was untrue.
Excuse me, we cannot. This is not a court of law. The Minister has made a statement. You cannot accuse him of improper behaviour during any parliamentary question. There are other ways of dealing with this matter, and if you care to contact the officials, they will advise you how to do so. Now, please refrain from accusing the Minister of something that he's not here to defend himself.
I am not accusing the Minister. I am just repeating.
You're accusing
I am just repeating what the
House.
Minister stated last night, Cian Corla, in relation to his own SIPO declaration.
Please proceed along those lines.
And as you know, making a false declaration to SIPO is a very serious matter.
Sorry, again, you cannot state that the Minister made a false declaration to SIPO based on what was said last night. Now, would you please refrain from making accusations? Thank you.
Okay. It appears from the Minister's statement last night that when he took office in March 2011 to the 12th of January 2012, that the Minister was in breach of SIPO guidelines. Taoiseach, the first question is, do you now agree that SIPO should investigate this matter? Secondly, Minister Reilly has not dispelled the concerns we have regarding his conflict of interest. We have a Minister for Health presiding over hundreds of bed closures in the public nursing sector while being an acknowledged stakeholder in a private residential care home. Taoiseach, do you share these concerns regarding his conflict of interest?
Thank you. Taoiseach.
Well, the Minister for Health came into the House last night and he made a statement about those matters. I accept that statement. The issue of any member of the House having private business interests is not new. We have procedures as to how that is to be dealt with. There's a procedure requirement for a declaration to be made to SIPO, which applies to every member of the House. There is a requirement in respect of office holders that they do not take an active involvement in their business affairs, that there's a way in which they put that at arm's length while they're a holder of office, and the Minister described how he had done that in the course of his statement last night, and he also informed the House that he had sought the advice of SIPO, as is the appropriate thing for him to do, and that he has complied with that advice. No, I accept that statement. In relation to issues relating to conflict of interest, as I've said, there are rules which govern the way in which all of that is to be dealt with. It is the procedure for declaration, the procedure whereby ministers do not have an involvement in any private business matter while they are an office holder, and where there's any doubt about any of those issues, or where any individual office holder or member of the House has a doubt about those issues, the place to go to is to SIPO for advice, which is what the Minister did on this occasion.
Deputy O'Brien.
Taoiseach, it's clear that there's a number of questions which still remain unanswered. For instance, the facts are that the Minister for Health is attempting to sell his share in a private, for-profit nursing home at the same time when the decisions he's making is resulting in the closure of public nursing home beds, which will have an impact on the value of that share. Now, Taoiseach, do you still have full confidence in the Minister for Health, who is in breach of a High Court order?
Taoiseach.
Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't on the one hand say that there's a conflict of interest, and on the other hand that he's disposing of the interest that he has in the property concerned. The minister informed the House yesterday of the efforts that he had made to dispose of that interest, and that's on the public record, and he has made that clear. Yes, I have confidence in the Minister for Health, as I do in all of the ministers that serve in this government.
Thank you. Deputy Pringle.
Thank you, Cian Corla. Taoiseach, your government has a tendency to let the banks run the show when all they have done is put us into the glass coffin of recession. And maybe this government could be best served concerning itself with actual bread and butter issues. The Department of Finance is providing for the introduction of basic payment accounts and has decided, in their wisdom, and we all know how the wise men there in Marion Street delivered us into the bank guarantee. So the wise men ignore the safe option, a safe pair of hands, and the option that people trust on a day-to-day basis, the post office. and favoured to pilot the basic bank accounts, payment accounts, through those reliable and well-oiled machines, the banks. In effect, it would seem that for the 17% of people who do not have a bank account, these people are being corralled into the banks, and the state ignores the tried and trusted and in situ system that is the post office network. At the same time, the Department of Social Protection intends to move to 100% electronic payments for social welfare benefits and implements this strategy with none other than the banks as well. Could I also remind you, Taoiseach, of a well-known little nugget of information? Most people don't actually trust our banks. The post office is a trusted part of our communities and can provide the basic account in a way that will provide the easiest access for everyone and continue to allow people to get their payments in their local post office. Post offices provide significant social fabric. Put simply, the post office service is the perfect way to roll out this account. And this would also help to ensure the continued operation of many rural post offices by growing the services that they can provide. So, Taoiseach, can you explain why post offices are not included in this pilot programme, despite common logic pointing that way? And do you intend to make sure to include post offices in the rollout of basic payment accounts?
Thank you, Deputy. Taoiseach.
Well, my understanding of this is that in fact An Post is going to be involved in all of this. The position in An Post is changing. The number of people who are using the postal services of An Post, that has been declining, and An Post clearly has to develop new business in order to ensure that the company has a viable and successful future. My understanding is that there have been discussions between the banks and An Post with regard to joint venture products which would meet the requirement that the Deputy is raising. I'm aware, for example, that AIB and An Post have recently been working on a joint venture product, and I think that that type of approach, as I understand it, would meet the kind of difficulty that the Deputy has raised.
Deputy Pringle.
I'm glad to hear that you're saying that An Post will be included in this rollout. But it is my information that An Post are not actually included in the pilot programme, and the programme has been rolled out directly through the banks. And I think when you see that the banks are retrenching and with closing branches and will be closing branches across the country, it's vitally important that people who don't have access to bank accounts have access in their local communities, and the network that can provide that is the An Post system. So I would ask you to make sure and to check that the An Post will be included in this rollout. And as shareholder, the Irish people have the right to insist that An Post provide this service, and that vital service, because not having a bank account costs people an awful lot of money and can cost over €1,000 a year for the people who don't have those accounts. And we need a system that's trusted and tried and tested, and An Post is the way to do that. So I would ask that you would ensure and make sure that An Post are included in this rollout.
Minister.
Well, first of all, I agree that people who don't have bank accounts need to be looked after, and a way found to ensure that they get their payments, and that they're not, as the Deputy says, corralled into banks in which they don't have accounts. I will examine what the Deputy has raised, and I think it's not unreasonable that An Post should be involved in all of this in the end product. So I will have the issue looked at, and I'll come back directly to the Deputy on it.